Welcome to 2023, I think, if I could calculate times. So what do we have here? And this is going to be one of those like, oh, it's because you're Zeos things, is I have a purple Fostex TH900, a red Fostex TH900, a white or ivory Fostex TH900, and another purple one. The rare ones are the purple ones, and the even rarer ones is the white one. I'm missing a blue and a green, an emerald and a sapphire. 3 out of 4 of these were loaned to me by Digital DJ Gear. One was loaned to me by Mimic. One of the purples was loaned to me by Mimic. There was just yeah, I'll absolutely loan me one of those. And then they just gave me these 3. I'm like, oh, well, give me, but they loaned to me. None of these will be staying here, unfortunately. But I also got every Deconi pad that they make for the TH900. And since I don't believe that there's any actual sound difference between the purples and the ivories and the reds and the purples again, there was difference in the sapphires. I think the greens were the same as well. You could make Christmas set with green and red. Fuck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going through. I got a variation of amplifiers in the desk. I got the TA22 Own X1S GT. I've got the Jal HM1, and I've got my reliable topping LA90, and then I throw on the TA26 for that little bit of tube joy. And what I'm doing is I'm going over the OGs. The OGs are the OG pads. Although I want to say, these ivory ones, the pads do seem thicker. Like they just seem thicker than like the purple ones. I don't know, it's just a square edge. These are the same. Like the quality control, I figured the quality control of Fostex would be like leagues higher than most things. So I'm gonna give a special listen. I'll use these as my reference for these stock pads. And I've already switched out to the fenestrated here, the fenestrated sheepskin on the red ones. So what I'm gonna do is, because I'm not ready to cannibalize all my thoughts, and it's also very cold down here, I'm ready to listen, different sources, stock pads, and then I'm going to start swapping pads, and then I'll come back and tell you which is the best. Don't forget to check the sponsorship link in the description, by the way. Thank you to my sponsor. I don't know who it is. Could be a pretzel company. Could be a feminine hygiene product. We'll never know, because it's happening in the future. It's like the cell phone. It's like the banana microwave. You understand with the text banana microwave, green goo. You know if you know. That's what those sponsorship links are. I'm talking about them in the past, from the future. Anyway, wallpaper. Well, if we have to learn anything, it's that the sun is a glorious ball of light that keeps us warm from space, and that I still love TH900s. I don't own a set. When it came time to buy one from Fostex had loaned me the TH900s and the TH909s. And I kept the 909s because they were a new one, and they were unique, and they were open back, and I loved the look of that, like, that grill on the side was fucking awesome. And I was like, give it to me. But they're very, very amp dependent. Those come out rarely because it's the fact that, like, they suck at the same time as they're great. And there's no difference between that and the 900s. The 900s are amp dependent as fuck. And the complement of amplifiers I have, I just shut off the TA26. Something was sounding weird and crunchy on that, so I just said fuck it. TA22 is probably the best sound here on the desk for these. It's a hybrid, just like previous winter. The ones I love my 909 for is a TA10, which is a single tube version with a 1950s tube in it. And it was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is where we jive. So I'm thinking hybrid tube is probably the way to go with any of these. Irrelevant. My TH900 review stands. These have incredible low end, and the problems that they have are the detail can creep into the painful side. Annoying at best, painful at worst, so they need something. You can't just plug these into a super hyper linear fucking amplifier and be like, music now. It'll kill you. It's like riding a bicycle made of razor blades. It's like, if you're going fast, you're going straight as an arrow, but it sucks. You need to dull that down a little bit. And luckily, some of these pads do just that. I wrote little notes on them. I ended up just basically fixating on the white ones because they had those really large stock pads. Like they just feel squarer. These use a twist-on system where they'll actually just detach by going click, 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 click. I don't think Tacony gives them to you with those plastic bits, though. I'm pretty sure I actually swapped these out when I was visiting Tacony back in August. So I have an extra set of the clips, but only one. So I've just been placing them on here and, you know, listening to them this way. We'll go over them in the order I did it. So we'll go from the bottom first. Excuse me, giant pile of pad boxes. Boop, ba-da-boop. I figured the first thing I should do, that's nice and warm, being on the TH22, was the sheepskin. And I just put them back in the box because it's just like, okay, so where's the stock, bastards? Get over here. Do you see the main difference between the stock and the Tacony? These stocks have a way bigger hole, like your mom. And what that does is it means there's more air. It means there's just more volume. So when the driver goes woomph, there's more space for it to woomph. When you try to channel that down into a smaller hole, that woomph has to go faster because you're moving the same amount. The headphone doesn't know it's a smaller hole. The headphone's moving the same amount of air. So it's sort of tunneled right into your skull. So on these, direct and forward, -1 point. Because it actually brings the sound of like largeness smaller and closer. I don't like that. Usually I don't like that. So that's taking away part of the TH900-ness, -1 point. And then I wrote next to it, eek treble. Because again, you're shooting things through a smaller tube. The treble is like, hey, remember that treble we're trying to dull out? You know, more of it. So that's -3 points. That's the lowest point value of anything on here. Everything else is like 1 or 2 points, arbitrary points of love. And then, and this is the weirdest thing, stiffer feel. Usually, Tacony pads are known to improve the feel of something. And I was hoping it would do the same, but if you squeeze the stock pad, while not being memory foam, it's very light. Very gentle, very luxurious. This is a stiff bastard. It's memory foam. It's kind of cold in my basement, but I wore them long enough to warm them up. And it was still like, I didn't like, so this is basically -1, 4, 6 points. So I do not recommend the Fostex TH900 Sheepskins for the Fostex TH900. The next ones I did were the Fenestrated Sheepskin, because if I had to guess, which I did when I was at the Tacony offices, like, which one of these do I think will be the best? I grabbed the Fenestrated Sheepskin, which is why they have the things on them. Now, while these have the same size hole as the other, they are full of holes so that it isn't just trapping a column of air. You have room for the sound to leave. It goes into the pads, it does things. It's different. And while it feels almost as stiff as the other ones, I think I gave these a comfort. Yeah, these are more comfortable. I don't know why. I don't know why, because I looked at them, I'm like, wait, same size hole as the other ones, basically the same memory foam as the other ones. Why are these more comfortable than the other ones? Don't know. Can't tell you why I like broccoli and not asparagus. They're both green. They both come on the ground. What I liked about these was comfort +1. That's not really overstock. Like if stock is a 0, then these are a 0. These didn't make comfort better than stock. I just like them more than the other ones. So comfort, I should probably change that comfort to a 0. Open sound, because I was going back to the stock ones between each pad. And I put this on and it's like, okay, cool, it's TH900s. I put this on with the fenestration, with the holes through it, and it just sounded more open. We're gonna get to even more open when we get to the actual just like cloth ones, but it sounded like a more open sound, even though the hole was smaller. Complete fucking polar opposite of the direct and forward sound that we had from the closed version. +1 point. I try to do bass on all of these. I have a bass playlist that I keep a bunch of songs in. And Yoshi Horikawa's Interlude, which I just had playing, sounds like... Give me something. If you just hear like highs there is a low note that is just repetitive over and over again of like whoomp, whoomp, whoomp. And you could tell right away if a headphone has bass, if it feels like that song is doing its job. So I was going back and forth to that. So with the Fenestrated on the 900s, 0 points. No change from stock. So We made the hole smaller, but we added holes around the hole, so everything was sort of cool and copacetic and was fine. There was a negative point, however, on this, and this is going to be real hard to describe because I couldn't find it in a frequency. A lot of times, like, oh, the treble above a certain point gets weird, or like the mid-range, the mid-tone, something's off. I called it high honk. There was a song from the Ferris Bueller soundtrack, because I happened to find an MP3 download, completely legal, of course, of the original Ferris Bueller soundtrack. And there's a couple tracks in there that are like, I don't want to hear these ever. Then there's that one track when they're driving into the city. Into the city now. Beep, beep, beep. I love that song. I want that song every time I leave my driveway. I want it to play. But there was one of the songs in the playlist that had like it's the it's like loud honking, and it was annoying me to the point that I put back the stock pads and went, does it happen here? And it didn't happen there. So as much as I want to just give these all praise, great comfort, open sound, no loss in bass, there was one or two tracks, and I'm gonna take my jacket off now because apparently I've warmed up. There was one or two tracks that I was just like, not worse than I've ever heard. Like, it isn't like every song, like it was just the one, and I had to go back and forth, so I had to write down high honk. So I high honked it. So I would still recommend these. I don't recommend the complete full sheepskin. I do recommend the fenestrated. You just gotta watch out. And I was going back and forth, even though I picked that as the best sounding amp. I know it's a tube, but I know it's dulling things down a bit. So I was going back to the Zal or even my LA90. And I was just like, all right, it sounds good here, but does it maintain? And it was usually pretty good. I didn't have to write anything down for it. The next one I went straight for the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the Velours, which is these guys here. So this is completely, look at this. This looks like a normal headphone pad. So again, small hole, but complete breathable fabric, like straight through. And these, what did I write on? Narrow soundstage. That's the one thing it did do that was like, we got a 0 points on bass. It didn't actually change the bass, even though it should. Like having it go from a closed leather pad to like a completely open should affect the bass. Didn't do it. Yoshi Horikawa was like boom, boom, and I was kind of shocked. Feel, comfort on this versus stock, about the same, even though again, completely different material. The two other things we have. The first thing was narrow soundstage. Narrow soundstage on a TH900 is an abomination. I gave it a -1 point. I could have given it a -2 points for that, but I didn't want to push that hard because it didn't fuck the sound up. It just, I don't know how it narrowed the soundstage. It's like it just went from like big to, okay, normal headphone. Turned into a normal headphone. What I crossed out the 1 point and gave it 2 points, however, was relaxed sound. I think to this moment, it's going to be a fight between basically the elite hybrids and these. 2 points on the relaxed sound, because the one thing the TH900s do is when they get uppity and they're in your fucking face and you're just like, please just let me listen to my music. I want to just enjoy it. And you need this tube and you need to turn this disabled. This is like putting it on like Ritalin. Wait, is Ritalin uppers or I don't remember. Ritalin's good. Ritalin's for kids that are like hyperactive. You just want to calm the fuck down. This was a good fix. 2 points, not 1 point, 2 points, because I was sitting here going, if I had to listen to these for 12 hours from now, I'm getting on a bus, a tour bus, Z-Reviews, going on tour. I'm going to do live shows. It's a live. I'm not ready for that yet. When I have a reason to do that, I'll do that. But all right, I'm going on tour. I'm going to be on a bus, 12 hours to Cincinnati, Ohio. Fostex TH900s. You have to take one pair of pads. Zeos, which one are you taking? I was pretty sure I was taking these. Because that relaxed sound, the ability to take a headphone that has its ups and downs as far as frequency response and makes it completely satisfactory with everything you're listening to, didn't fuck up the bass, didn't fuck up the feel. Narrowed the soundstage, which, again, I don't like narrow soundstage on my 900s, but didn't ruin anything else. That's it. Didn't ruin anything else about the sound. That was my pick. And then I went, and this is going to be the hardest one to explain, and probably my choice. Dull presentation, -1 points for the hybrids, the ones that have fabric here, fenestration inside, and solid outside. So it's just a collaboration of like everything we've just reviewed. And then underneath it I wrote, in much better handwriting, dull presentation, 1 point. And I know this from going from the stock pads, the stock TH900 pads. I had them on, was listening to a song. Right in the middle of the song, I said stop, boop, 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 swapped it out, put the thing on my head, and it just sounded dull. And I was just like, it was just dull. I'm like, oh, that's a -1 point, dull presentation. Now I'll keep listening for other things that are wrong or right. And I just kept listening. It was the weirdest thing. I got up to take a leak, came back downstairs, put them on my head, and if I didn't know that these weren't the stock pads, where the hell are they? If I didn't know these weren't the stock pads, I would have been completely satisfied. And then I wrote dull presentation +1. So it does something to take it away from the stock sound, but it doesn't hurt almost any other aspect of what I liked about them. Like, they still sound like TH900. They still have the width, they still have the low end. It was just sort of like softened. It was like if I added a tube on top. That's why I have it plugged into currently the LA90, because it's like, oh, I don't need the tube amp to make these the most tolerant. I could just use anything now. My 909s over there use Yaxi pads. Yaxi makes a pad for the 900, and I use it for that. But this is a Dakoni video, so I'm not going to talk about it. But that pad is a hybrid pad. And I think that's the key. I don't hate the stock TH900s, obviously. No one can. You can if you have the wrong amplifier, and it's like, why do you people like this? Once you find the right amplifier, I will link to Hart audio cables, Viking weave cables, Hart audio cables. This is a stock cable. This is actually a Dakoni cable. Do you know Dakoni made cables? They're a little bit pricey. This is like $100 and something, but it's not even for Fostex. It's for Sennheiser. But if, look at it, beautiful little thing goes. I have this adapter, but yeah. This one says the least, but it actually says the most, because you don't want a pad. A lot of the times, unless a headphone is bad, you don't want a pad to improve it and change it. The fact that this pad changes things seemingly for the worse, and then you start getting used to it after like 5 minutes, and it becomes the default sound of what you like. That's what you want. So my vote is TH900 Elite Hybrids. I'll turn this around, and then I got to turn this around. Yeah. So the order I listen to them in is the order that I probably recommend them in. Sheepskin's last. Don't get the sheepskin. Fenestrated sheepskin is acceptable. The Elite Velours, I like. They narrow it, but I still like them. And then the Elite Hybrids are the ones that are like, oh, these sound dull compared to, oh, that's what I wanted all along. Oh, that's what I wanted all along. It's what I wanted all along. So a big shout out to Digital DJ Gear, Dakoni, and Mimic, and Hart, and artists who draw beautiful women that don't exist on Twitter. And then, I guess, my sponsor in the sponsorship link down below. You've taken up my entire morning, but I got to listen to a bunch of music that I like haven't in a while. I made that this excuse. It's like, all right, Zeos, you have to do work. Fine, I'll listen to the Ferris Bueller soundtrack that I haven't listened to yet fully. And I came out with this. So yeah, if you like this channel, you like this sort of content, please let me know. I wasn't paid a sponsorship fee for doing any of this. It's just like Dakoni gave me all these, and they loaned, and Digital DJ Gear loaned me all these, and then Mimic will loan me this, and I'm like, well, if I have all this, I have to just take advantage. So if you like that, Patreon, subscribe star, follow us a month, see these reviews early. Also, get to participate in the yard sales, which I don't think... You know what? I don't they want this back. I might put these in the yard sale. I might put the bottom 3, or maybe all 4. And I'll look for pads in the yard sale, which happen from the 1st to the 10th of every month. Which is you have to be a supporter, and then you can bid anything you want on an item from 0 to $1 billion and 19 cents. Always bid an odd number, although you can't bid an odd 0. And then if you win, I ship to free for Canada, United States, and half shipping international. And then you also get to hear loss of sound demos. I would sound demo all this, but I don't want to lose my fucking mind. But my sound demos are now available privately only, so I could use whatever tracks I'd like, whatever wallpapers I'd like, whatever tracks and wallpapers I'd like. So if you'd like to access previous sound demos and certainly new sound demos, both visually and losslessly with downloadable FLAC, let me know by joining the Patreon. And for $10 a month, you get in the private behind-the-scenes Telegram chat to ask me questions directly, which is the easiest way to get to me. It's like, if you join my Patreon for $5 and message me there, I'm not going to see it. I had to stop going there because people were posting like life stories, and it would take me 45 minutes just to read that, search all the products they were talking about, and then try to form a relationship going, because then I would ask a question back, and then they would disappear for 2 days. And by the time I answered 15 others and 2 days went by and the guy was like, this, I was like, oh shit, what was it again? And I had to go and it was a nightmare. So much easier, $10 a month, private Telegram chat, go in there, question, I answer with my voice, it's interaction back and forth immediately. For mental health reasons, I can't do it any other way. So there's that. And if you're in that, you're also in the Lifetime Swap Meet channel where you get to buy, sell, and trade gear with other members that have ever been $10 patrons. We've got the Hi-Fi Guides forums. The Hi-Fi Guides is still meh. Our Zeos is still broken. There's a subreddit. Don't forget to check out my Linktree. You will not find an OnlyFans in my Linktree. I tried. Trust me. I would have had all the sexy headphone shots. But yeah, no, I'm done here. You're done here. Thanks for stopping by. I don't want to tell you to subscribe and hit the bell. You people will do that if you fucking want to. It's 2022. Everyone else is telling you to do that. I think you figured it out by now. But do check out In-Ear Fetish, which is the IM channel. And there's also a Zeo second channel, which I haven't posted to enough regularly. Then there's an unboxing channel that does every other day videos from like all the unboxings in the last few months are just shuffled up in there. If you want to see me unbox all these things, that's always fun to get my first impressions. But other than that, we're good. I'm good, you're good, she's good, we're good. Good night.